this piece sort of sums up the last 5 years of McIlroy's career, in that he is perceived to have been not succeeding. And so I did a little bit of nerdy research in this. Firstly, he's won 4 majors, McIlroy. Only 5 Europeans have ever won more, only one of whom is still alive, okay? Since he won his last major in 2014, okay, he has finished in the top 10 in 9 different majors, more than any other player in the world. So this is a player who, I'm not saying Walsh didn't use the word failing, but essentially it's that sort of theme that McIlroy is not delivering, okay? In addition to that, he's won 12 tournaments on the PGA and European tours. He has stayed in the world top 10. He has helped Europe to 2 Ryder Cup victories. He has had 9 top 5 finishes in majors in addition to his 4 victories, okay? Now, what are we comparing him to? Are we comparing him to Koepka? Are we comparing him to the player we thought he could become? My argument is we should actually also be comparing McIlroy to where he stands in the history of Irish golf and also the history of Irish sport. He was number 1 in the world for 95 weeks. Only 3 players have surpassed that total in the history of golf. Also, and this is where the nerdiness really came in, and this was hour after hour after hour, from 1964 to 97, there was only one Irishman, Christy O'Connor, in 85, who led a major at the end of a day's round. Okay? In the 1970s, only one Irishman finished in the top 10 in a major. McIlroy, he's won at 4 majors, that's the starting point. He's had 9 top 5 majors. He's delivering. He's just not delivering the titles, but there's way more depth now than there were in the 1970s.
True, yeah.
When Nicklaus was winning as often as he did. So I actually think he gets a bit of a raw deal. I think I'm in a minority of 1. Sorry, in this island I'm in a minority of 2, myself and McIlroy. But I think he's achieving, and okay, he's not winning, but I mean, the guys that are beating him are good players.
Did you read the piece to me?
I did. I don't think he said that. I don't think he actually. I have a different view than Gary on it. I think the McIlroy story is a fascinating story. I mean, he's an exceptional golfer. I think sometimes we take for granted, when you take Gary's nerdy stats, what he has achieved, which has been incredible. I think for most of us, the disappointment with McIlroy is that we expect him to be the successor to Tiger Woods. So you have 2 players in the history of golf, Nicklaus and Woods, who were exceptions to any situation, okay? And whether somebody like me thinks Woods was the greatest of all time or somebody else will think Nicklaus was, they're just opinions, but they separated themselves from everybody else. And we had a chance, we believe, with an Irish guy to be the third of that triumphant group in that sense. He then won 4 titles of majors before the age of 25, and we thought this world was going to be a phenomenal world. But there was always a challenge for McIlroy, and his putting was never the best. The one in McIlroy, even right through his amateur career, he was never the best putter. He was a streaky putter. He's probably the best driver, in the game, has been probably ever, and people envy his driving in that sense. And over time, his iron and wedge play has become good and bad, but his putting is consistently. I heard a stat many years ago from a professional. At the time, Jason Day, Spieth, and Justin Thomas and McIlroy were sort of in that quartet. That when McIlroy stood on the tee box from tee to green, he was 6 shots ahead of them in every tournament, and they were 10 shots ahead of him on the green. And so on the days he putted well, he was always going to be, the winner in that sense. And I think what David Walsh, my take on it is that, we've come to love McIlroy a bit more. I think he's announced and play for on the next Olympics. So there's more of a love for McIlroy. He hasn't gone to the Hinch, which I think is a good decision for him, and we can talk about that later on. But Koepka is now the real deal as regards majors, and that's really where he focused on in that sense. And I just think that the sad thing for Rory is that, he can win more majors. There's no doubt. How many more he win, time will tell. But the sad thing is that he's no longer the fairy tale we expected. He now is just an exceptionally talented golfer who has 4 majors and may win more, but other guys are catching up. And when you look at a guy like Woods, who won his 15th against all the odds in Augusta, it's hard at this juncture to see McIlroy have that longevity. because
it's hard to see him have those numbers. Like, it's hard to see him jump from 4.
Well, I don't ever see that would happen.
You just can't see that.
I mean, whether he'll win one more or two more, time will tell in that sense. But I think what David Walsh is saying, that Koepka is the real deal now in majors, and that where McIlroy succeeds in non-majors, Koepka doesn't succeed in non-majors and succeeds in majors. I don't think both of those are actually fully accurate in the sense that Koepka didn't win either last week, so both of them ended up, whether you're 2nd or 7th or 10th. Once you don't win it, you're an also ran in reality in that sense, from my point of view, in the majors. But I think the thing is that David Walsh was saying, McIlroy will win the popularity stakes in the Open, but Koepka has got what it takes to outscore him where it matters in the majors. I actually hope David Walsh is wrong. I'd like to see McIlroy win more majors in that sense, and but even if he stopped today, he's had a phenomenal career, and I just think that we're very hard on our sports people in this country because we only want winners, and we only want people to win, and we all love them when they win, and then
we only want winners. How many winners have we ever had though in any sport?
Well, at the highest,
we've in terms of world number ones, Sean Kelly was world number 1. Okay, beyond that, in boxing, Katie Taylor is world number 1 now. It's a very short list. This guy was number 1 for 95 weeks. It's a phenomenal achievement. What are we judging him on? Are we judging McIlroy on the McIlroy we wanted him to be, or are we judging him against a century of sport? Remember the hype that was generated by the Irish rugby team going to number 2 in the world? This guy was number 1 for 95 weeks. Rugby team didn't even make it to number 1. Only 8 teams play the sport well.
We not judge him off the standards he set, the ability that we know he has,
I think that's what,
versus what he's producing now.
Yeah.
We're not judging him off what me and you can do. We're not judging him off Irish golf over the last 100 years. We're not judging him off Irish sport over the last 100 years.
But shouldn't we be,
We're judging him off his own talent. I think you can only judge people off their own abilities.
I think you can only judge McIlroy on how he executes in the current world. I think that, you've given the stats, Gary.
Like some of those stats, his top 10s in majors, if we're going by the McIlroy standard that he has set, I would like to know what percentage of those top 10 majors were reversed into. And by that I mean blows himself out of the tournament on Thursday or Friday, no pressure on him on Sunday, and so often in that scenario when he's tied for 35th, he goes out and shoots a 62 and finishes 8th. That has been a feature of his game far too often. It was a real blessing, actually. It was a real rarity on Sunday last week when he was in the second final pairing and actually started a Sunday in the tournament. Because I guarantee you, so many of those top 10s, which are impressive, of course they are, but by the standards that McIlroy has set, a lot of those top 10s by his standards are just reverse in, under no pressure, finish tied for 8. They're what I call Matt Kuchar top 10s, as opposed to Brooks Koepka finishing second.
But you've 9 top 5s as well as the top 10s.
He'd have reversed into a few of them, genuinely. Yeah, I'd like to know how far he was off the leader at the start of that day.
Okay, I'll put a question to you, right? If Shane Lowry gets in the top 5 in Port Rouge, what do you think that'll make headlines?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're judging Shane Lowry off Shane Lowry's abilities.
Right.
If Shane Lowry had won 4 majors in that space of time and produced that level of golf, then a 5th for Shane Lowry wouldn't cause any ripples. McIlroy finishes 5th. It'll be okay. It'll be good. By the standards he set. Look, he's a victim of his own standards. Yeah. That's his problem. Yeah. Maybe the toughest thing you could say is, what a pity McIlroy didn't win 1 major every 4 years across his career. Then suddenly 4 majors.
But he was better than that.
He was better than that.
See, Gary, I would, develop Joe's point. He was better than that. I mean, McIlroy was a superstar, and like they talk about it even in some of the pieces.
But he's not dead yet. Like, I mean, he hasn't retired yet. Like, he's got 4. No, but there was a gap. There was a huge gap. Was it 79 to 86 between Nicklaus's 17th and 18th? The gap between Woods' 14th and 15th.
Circumstances are different, though.
This guy could end up with 8 or 9 in an era when there's more depth than there ever was.
Okay, but first of all, the circumstances are different now in that. So Woods' gap of 11 years, there was a huge amount of injuries in that period from that point of view, and there were some other off the courses. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that, and we talked off camera and earlier on about, Nicklaus, played in an era where the majors were dominated by all American players. There was very few overseas international players. Gary Player obviously was the exception. So he won an awful lot of majors against American players. He was beating every week in that sense, from that point of view. My frustration for McIlroy is that he has done an incredible thing in winning 4 majors by the time he did.
Yeah.
I think if he was sitting down today, you know, and inside himself, not talking to guys like us, he would say he should have won more up to now. That's the thing about it. And right now, you know, when you see for me, when I watch golf, I'm a big fan of golf. I never believe right now McIlroy is going to win a major. Last week I watched Pebble Beach, and on the first tee box, I just never believed he was going to win the major.
That's Walsh's almost core point, that Koepka has this iron will about him, and McIlroy has a sort of fragility in the pressure moments.
But the days McIlroy will putt well, Joe, he will win the major. And I just think that we're judging McIlroy against his own ability. He's not Shane Lowry, he's not Padraig Harrington, he's not Graham McDowell or Paul McGinley. He is this exceptional talent. And as I said, his driving is the envy of practically every pro. He drives the ball straighter and longer than practically everybody. The pity for him is that there's a lot more people now coming in, and this guy Koepka has come under the radar. You know, if you think if he travelled the world, all the minor tours.
He's equalled McIlroy's career in major terms in 2 years. Like, there is an argument that Harrington's 3 majors is a greater achievement than McIlroy's 4 because of their individual
talents. Because he's maximised his talent.
Where I do definitely agree with you, Gary, is that when you step back from it all, when McIlroy retires, when he's a 60-year-old, 70-year-old walking around, if he still only has 4 majors, people won't be saying he should have won a lot more. They will say, what a great career. It's a Hall of Fame career.
They might say both.
Might say both. They probably will say both.
But
that'd
also,
be accurate.
I mean,
he could easily get to, if he gets to 6, what is he? Then he's level with Faldo as the best European.
Behind us, Forden had 7, hadn't he?
Yeah, I think Palmer's 7. Like, look, if McIlroy wins the same number of majors as Arnold Bloody Palmer.
Well, look, he's one shy of Ballesteros total.
Yeah. No, it's true.
It's remarkable.
It is. And yet, he did it in this glut almost, and you thought, I think it's because...
And it's not over yet, like, you know, he's still
the one thing... The
still has 15 years.
He does. No, he does. There's a great chance he'll win at least another... Well, let's put a number on it. What are we saying?
Another 4.
Yeah.
I think if he wins
2 or 3.
I think if he wins 1 more, he'll do well.
Okay, on that bombshell.
Well, he will do well if he wins 1 more, because I just remember this. The big thing for me, Joe, I remember watching the Open and watching the majors throughout the 1980s.
Yeah.
And there was never an Irishman, with the exception of Sandwich in 85, in the top 10.
Yeah.
Just didn't happen.
And
Sorry, it did happen on 2 or 3 other occasions in the 80s.
Yeah.
And was just been spoiled.
I know.
Spoiled not just by McIlroy, but also by the run when Clark won and McDowell and Harrington had his 3.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I just think we've lost the sense of perspective that this is what happens on a regular basis. It doesn't. You know, I'm glad I didn't live. I lived through half the 1970s, but I'm glad I didn't watch year after year.
I'd love to see McIlroy win many more majors. I think that, you know, the competition has changed now in that sense. People can drive it as far as him. Yeah. So if you look at the technical aspects of the game, you know, his length has been negated by many in that sense.
That's the worry for him over the next 5 years, is the next generation of college kids.
Yeah.
They look at his driving and they say,
we can do that.
I can do that.
You know, Koepka now is out there as long as him in that sense, and the difference is, you know, Koepka's short game is consistently under pressure, standing up more in that sense. But I'd love to see McIlroy win more. I think if he gets 1 more, I'd be very happy for him.
Okay.